We've got our Pygame window opening up and showing a blank screen. The next thing that we want to do is learn how to clear that screen to the color of our choice so that we're not just left with black, and we'll do our first bit of drawing in order to draw a line on that screen. Note from the program that we've got up here that I've got some comments in here that organize this program into certain different sections. And if you take a look at that, all our event processing handling happens right here. So when you work with the mouse, when you work with the keyboard, the quit button, that will happen in this section. The game logic, where we figure out how stuff moves, when things collide, that type of thing, will all happen right here. And we're going to draw everything right here. We do it in this fashion. It's the same sort of algorithm that we used when we did the calculator program way back in Chapter 1. We get the user input, we do processing, and we do output. Although in this case the output will be graphics, the processing will be moving around game objects, and the input will be things like mice, keystrokes, that type of thing, and we'll be doing it in a loop 20 times per second in order to make the arcade game work. Now, if I want to clear the screen, what I need to do next is go over here to the drawing part and enter the command to clear the screen. I'm going to use the fill command and tell it to fill the screen with white. I'm going to scroll up here just a little bit. With this command, remember we have what we're drawing on up here. I'm using that same variable down here and saying I want to take this screen, and this is my function name, fill it. So the function name is fill, and this is a parameter that's the color that I want to fill it with. And remember, we defined what color was up at the beginning of the program. If I hadn't told the computer that white was a set of 3 numbers, 255, 255, 255, it wouldn't work here. Great, now so the screen should be filled with white if I run it. If I come up here and run the program, we'll be disappointed to see that our screen is not filled with white at all. And there's a reason for this. It's a common mistake too when people are working with this to forget this next step. It would not work for us to draw things if the user actually saw them while they're being drawn to the screen. The computer does all the drawing, and then you have to do a command that's called flip, and that flip command will actually show all the drawing. We don't want the user to see what is being drawn while we're drawing it, because then the screen would flicker, really something horribly. What we want to do is draw it invisibly and then flip the screen, sort of like a flip book, which is where the command comes from, so that the user can see what's going on. In order to flip the screen so that you can see the output, the command that you need is pygame.display.flip. You do this after you're drawing, and then when you run the program, you can see we've got the screen colored to white. Not very exciting. We need to at least draw something to the screen, so let's figure out how to draw a line to the screen. You can draw a line to the screen with the command pygame.draw.line screen green 0 0 and the endpoint. Let's do 100 100, and how thick we want the line. Let's make the line 5 pixels thick. This isn't exactly correct. If I go ahead and run the game right now, I still don't have a line. This shows a common problem that people will have when beginning to program. That's the ordering of the statements. If you take a look at these statements that we have here, the first thing I am doing is drawing a line. So the computer will draw the line on the screen, something like this, and then I clear the screen with white. So the computer will erase the whole thing with white, obliterating the line that I just drew, and then finally I will actually flip the screen so that you can see the white screen. So the order that I draw these things is really important. I don't want to clear the screen after I do some sort of drawing. I want to have the first thing that happens be this screen clearing. So I'm going to take this, move it up here. I will clear the screen with white and then draw the line. When the game runs, you can see here, I've got my line starting at right here. I've got it at 0, 0. And the end position right here is 100, 100. It's green and the width is 5 pixels wide. Let's take a closer look at the command. When you do the command, this is the library. It's a draw package inside of that library, and then finally we have our function name right here. So this is the library, this is the package or module that we've got, and here's the function. The first parameter right here, what are we drawing on? Because remember, we could have multiple windows open. We've got one window open and we want to draw on the screen. So that's parameter number 1. Parameter number 2, the color that we want to draw. Again, the colors are defined up at the top. Next parameter is the starting location. And this looks a little bit strange because note that I've got square brackets around it. A starting location is going to be an XY position. In order to send the computer one parameter that contains 2 numbers, I make it into a small list and I have to surround those with square brackets. And there's a comma between the numbers that we've got going here. This XY of the start. This will be the XY of the end. So the end is at 100, 100. I've got square brackets around the XY of the start, square brackets around the XY of the end, and I've got a comma that's outside the square brackets that separates the start from the end. Yep, I know it's just a bit confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. And here's our width. You can actually leave that out, and I believe it defaults to a width of about 1. Drawing lines, kind of boring. Let's amp it up just a little bit. Let's make a loop. Let's draw more than one line. For I in range 5. For I in range 5, let's draw 5 lines. If I do this, tab it in, I should be drawing 5 lines. But if I run the program, I only have 1 line. Why do I only have 1 line? Well, I actually do have 5 lines, but they're all drawn at the same locations. I got 5 lines that start here, 5 lines that start here, and they're just drawn on top of each other. I need to make it look like the lines are coming from a different location. So I need to change these XY values. I can do that with this whole I item. Remember, with the range, we can vary how it works. So let's have the X value change for X in range. Started at 0, go up to 100, and go by 20s. Rather than having a set value, I'm going to replace these with X's. To begin with, I'm going to have a 0 in for X, so this will draw it at 0, 0, and 0, 100. And then the next time through, if I'm stepping by 20, I'm going to have 20, 0, and 20, 100, and then 40 and 60, and it'll keep going up to 80 because it doesn't include the 100, remember? Running this program will get us a set of vertical lines because Y stayed the same, but X I varied as we went through the loop. You could do all sorts of variations of this in order to make for something a little bit more interesting, but this is way better to draw some stuff like fence posts or railroad ties in a loop rather than actually having 100 different commands in order to draw a line.